Storytelling Again was brought to you by Sunny Speaks in conjunction with Illinois Humanities and Kusanya Cafe. The first storyteller tonight is Mark Heath. Yeah, you're gonna get the recording. We'll post this recording, but Mark Heath James. Let me explain. Let me say that correctly. Is an individual I met at another event as a performer, a singer, a poet, and we just hit it off immediately. And so I asked him, I'm like, are you willing to be a part of a storytelling event? I think he's come do a few of our events, and he's also been a part of our workshop. So I'm going to set it up for Mark right now.
Hey, peace. I don't know if y'all can hear sirens and stuff that's blaring down my street right now. But I am poet and comedian Mark James Heath, and it's interesting. What I do primarily is I'm a counselor. I'm a counselor for male identifying middle school students, so sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And the topic that we pretty much cover consistently overall in our program is manhood and the idea of what is a man. And it's something that has been called into question more so, I'd say, in this last like 5 to 10 years, more than it ever has in my entire life. Is what does that mean? What's a man? What is a man? How does manhood work? Um, and it's really gotten me to thinking, what do I think a man is and how do I measure what a man is? When I was younger, I measured manhood by like physique. You know, you grow up, you get big, you get strong, you get tall, and that is what will make you a man. And then I, became an adult, and I only reached about 5'7", and that's just as tall as I've ever gotten. I haven't been in any accidents or nothing like that. That's just where it went. I got to about 1998, and puberty just said, "That's it. That's all we gonna give you. We not giving you no more. You ain't getting no more shoulders. You getting a mustache, and we leaving you just like this." So ever since the Bulls, lost Phil Jackson, I have not grown physically since then. I've only been able to grow emotionally. Um, and then I read about this scientist, and I use the term scientist very loosely, named J.F. Blumenbach. And J.F. Blumenbach was a European scientist who basically used skulls to come up with a hierarchy of human beings, which we use in America and in most of the Western countries to determine what we call race, right? He set up that hierarchy with what he called white people at the top of that hierarchy and then black people at the bottom. And that's when I realized that using physique and physical characteristics to judge the value of a person is probably not the best idea. So I abandoned that somewhere around knowing that. And then it was like, okay, maybe a man is somebody who has money and can take care of things. But again, as a grown man, I don't know a whole lot of guys that have money. Most of us don't. Most of us are worried about money, even if we seem to have a whole lot of money. And most of the people I know who have risked their lives or their freedom have done it for that reason, so that they can have money or be able to pay for stuff. So it seemed like all of the families in my neighborhood, the women that I knew growing up, the kids that I knew growing up, they wished that the men in their lives were less concerned with making money and more concerned with being involved in their day-to-day lives. So it didn't seem very manly to chase money. And then just recently, my 4-year-old was hospitalized, and this was just like about a week ago. She's still not 100% back to where she normally was. But she started to get this growth in the side of her neck. So we had to take her to the emergency room. And they didn't know what it was. They wanted to run some more tests. So they had to admit her into the hospital, and she had to ride in the ambulance and go to the hospital. And it really was this hard thing to see her go through all of this physical pain that I wasn't really going through, right? She was getting her blood drawn. She was getting different IV put in, and then the IV fell out, and they had to put the IV in again. And she's just a kid, and she really doesn't even understand that even though all of these procedures are very painful, that she's not doing anything wrong to sort of bring this about. She would say that over and over, like, "I'm not a bad kid. Why does everybody keep hurting me?" And it was really hard to hear. And really, this thing that I find myself in as a man quite a bit with having kids and a wife, where they're in this position where you want to protect them and take care of them, but it's not your body, it's their body. And they're going to go through some things that you just can't do anything about. You don't have any power in that situation. So being big or being strong or being able to take a lot of physical pain doesn't really help me in this situation. And I also I listen to a lot of music. I like a lot of music, but my favorite music has always been like soul music from really to me, Motown in the 60s and the 70s. That's probably the best music that has ever been made, right? And if you listen to this music, one thing that you can take away from all of it is they did not believe men should cry. Every song that they put out, they were standing outside in the rain. They hope it rain, let it rain. Please let some rain fall, because they cannot get caught crying. Every heartbreak David Ruffin went through, he caught pneumonia because he was not allowed to cry. So I've never really cried in front of my kids before, which is interesting because I have clinical depression. So I'll be crying, but I've never cried in front of them. So this was another time where I found myself trying to steal little moments where I could sneak away and cry. And crying is always really weird because you can cry silently and nobody will really know that you're crying, right? But when you get caught is when you have to speak for the very first time. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the bathroom in the hospital, just crying and crying, and I'm crying real silent. Right? I'm not whining, I'm not whimpering. I just got the tears running down my face. And you wash your face, you get yourself together, then you go back out there to be with everybody, and then somebody mess around and ask you a question like, "So what do you want to watch on TV?" And you like, The Incredibles. You have that timbre in your voice when you've been crying. And I noticed that I didn't want to get caught crying, and I didn't want to get caught sleeping either. Everybody was, my daughter can't really sleep because they're coming in every hour to sort of check on her and make sure that she's all right. So they interrupting us sleeping. My wife can't sleep because the baby can't sleep. So even when she's not at the hospital, she's awake wherever she is, and she's depressed. So I really, really was scared for somebody to catch me just napping. I really felt like I didn't have the right to go to sleep. And then it just occurred to me that all the things I associate with manhood now that I am an adult man are just detrimental to my health, really. It's all about me not having emotions, not getting tired, not being able to feel sadness or vulnerability, having to carry all the groceries in from the car in one trip, stuff like that. That just doesn't make much sense. And I kind of decided that I'm a man because I am an adult male. That doesn't mean I'm a good person. That doesn't mean I'm strong or smart or talented, but I'm a man, and I don't really have a whole lot of choice in that. The same way how if I was a trans man, that wouldn't be a choice, or if I was a woman, that wouldn't be a choice, right? I'm a man because I am one. Now, what kind of man I am, I do have a choice in. And I'm trying to decide more and more every day what type of man I want to be. I can be a man sleep. I can be a man who cries. I can be a man who's broke. I can't be a man who has to take more than one trip to bring in the groceries. That's personally where I draw the line.